Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about my work in progress. I've mentioned before that I've been working on a short story collection and here it is. Not as a real book. It's very cute, isn't it? Look at this. I've talked about in this channel before how in the last months I've been working on this short story collection, and I think in the last years I've also been talking about me wanting to write these short stories, but I don't think I ever went into detail. I never really talked about the stories themselves. So that's what I'm going to do today. Because the stories are complete, I still have one last round of editing and then I think it's done. I think I'm ready to send it to a professional editor. I'm so excited. This collection contains 13 short stories, some in the shorter form, others in the longer form. The title of the story is 13 Months of Seclusion. This is not the final title, although I want it to be. So let me explain the title a little bit before I get into the stories. 13 Months of Seclusion actually has ties to the COVID pandemic because it was, I think, for me, it was about 13 months that I was isolated. We weren't locked down for the entire 13 months, but here in Athens, I remember it was March because I had to cancel my birthday party, that a person was infected with COVID, at least here in Athens. So I think 2 or 3 weeks after that, we went into lockdown. We all isolated ourselves. We were in like literal lockdown, but after lockdown ended, most of us were still, working from home and remained isolated from the rest of the world. And for me, that lasted for about 13 months before I started going back to uni. I was doing my PhD back then. Oh, someone's calling me. You won't hurt anymore. Be careful what you wish for. Okay, so I don't know what I was talking about. So basically, what I mean is that I was isolated for 13 months, and that's how I decided to write a short story that has 13 stories in it, a short story collection that has 13 stories in it, and each story represents 1 month. So it's not like doesn't literally take place in one specific month, and these stories are not interconnected or something. Maybe some are, maybe some aren't. I'm not gonna tell you now. So the first story represents March, like it's pretty, like self-explanatory at this point. And then the second is April, and on we go. And then the last story is again March. That's the meaning of the title. Fun fact, there is one story in here that takes place during a lockdown. It's not, specifically about COVID. It never specifies that. But who cares? Okay, so it's time to talk about the stories themselves. I will try very much not to give away many things, so I'm going to stay with the very basics. The title and a very short description. Okay. So the first story in this collection is called The Portal. The Portal. Oh my God. Oh my God. I forgot to mention, for those of you who probably don't know what I write most of the time, I write thrillers and horror, and that's it for now. I would really love to be able to write mystery someday and maybe some other genres. In this collection, we have a sci-fi story, which is fun, and it's the first story in the collection. So, here we go. The first story in this collection is called The Portal. The Portal is a sci-fi story. It's not very short, it's in the longer side of short stories, and it's actually three parts. The first part is the roommate, the second is the apartment, and the third part is the portal. So here we have Katerina, who is a student in Athens, and she lives in an apartment near the Acropolis monument, and she has a roommate whose name is Katie. And Katie and Katerina are identical. They're like twin sisters. They are so alike, but they're not. And what happens is that as Katerina navigates this world, Katie comes and goes. She appears suddenly and then just vanishes with no explanation. So that's what's happening basically. The two girls like interact with each other, and then and then Katie just vanishes. I think I'm going to stay with that for now, so I don't spoil anything for you. It is sci-fi, it is called The Portal, and I think like most of you are going to figure out what's happening before reading it. Okay, moving on. Like a Noose. Like a Noose is a short story that came to me in a blink of an eye for some reason. This never happens to me. And I was just like sitting there. I remember I was talking to my partner before graduating, and I told him how much I missed writing stories and that I always have all these ideas. And it was like, if you have like all these ideas, then I challenge you to write a short story within the weekend. And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. And I just sat down, and then this story came to me in just like one big wave. And I wrote it in like 2 sittings. And it was done in less than a day. So I chose the title Like a Noose because it's the exact same phrase of how the story finishes, like a noose. So basically what we have here is the protagonist is like thinking about all those years ago when her sister killed herself. We have a literal noose in this story, but then it becomes more symbolic. It's a very strong metaphor about the way that she lives her life and the way her sister lived her life before she killed herself. And there's this one line that I love. I know I wrote this story, and I know it makes me sound conceited, but I really love this here. This sentence that I wrote. We were a sad family flooding the internet and the news outlets and the magazines with happy photographs. So this was way before her sister killed herself. Just a sad family smiling in the photographs, and I thought that was very ironic, and I loved it, and I don't care if I sound conceited. Okay. Next up, we have Black Walls. Black Walls was so interesting to me. It was so fun exploring the story. So what's happening basically is we have our protagonist, Jerry, who is very miserable in his life. He hates his job, his wife left him, everything's wrong. He's, in this constant routine day after day. He's anticipating the weekend, and then the weekend just flies by, and then the weekend is just like a fleeting moment. And then something strange happens one day. Jerry realizes that he's running out of days. Basically, we have a 7-day week, and then the next week is 6 days, and then the next become 5 days. And so Jerry starts to wonder, what happens when he runs out of days? What happens when the last day comes? What happens is that he's just floating in space forever. It's okay, not exactly, but yeah, it was very, very fascinating for me to explore, something like that. I feel like it was a bit trippy. So yeah, and it was very fun, very, very, very fun and creative to write something like that. I guess you're gonna have to read it to find out how it ends. Again, this is symbolic. His days are not literally ending. He's not literally floating in space. I feel like me clarifying this defeats the purpose of the story, so I'm going to stop. I won't clarify anything else. In the Haze. Okay, next story. In the Haze. In the Haze is like the most experimental thing that I've written. I hope that I did it well. So far, my readers are very enthusiastic about this story. I think only one of them said that he had to read it twice to understand exactly what's going on, and I'm happy with twice. I guess I'm going to find out if it literally makes sense after professional editing is over. So, what is this story about? So this story, I don't know how to describe it to you. This is a kind of eerie story. It's a little bit creepy. We have a protagonist whose name I can't remember because I think I never gave her a name. I have no idea what's going on in her mind, and I think that shows. But no, I'm kidding. So this girl, well, okay, so let me start from the beginning. I had to rewrite this story like multiple times in order to get it to make sense, and to be, enjoyable as much as someone can enjoy a murder. But anyway, so what's happening is that we have this protagonist whose name I can't remember, and I think I never gave her a name. It's written in first person, so I can't remember her name at all. Anyway, so we have this protagonist who is in her like bathtub taking a shower with her husband. And she tells him, that earlier that day a client came into her shop and he looked exactly like her husband. And her husband is laughing, and choking on soap water and whatever. But the thing is that the person who came in and looked like her husband was actually an old classmate of hers, a crush she had when she was 14. And she sees him after all those years. And she, goes mental. I don't know how much I can give away without ruining the story. So basically that's it. And the thing about the experimental part of the story is that I tried to write it all like it's all happening at the same time, because she's in the shower remembering what happened 14 years ago and then remembering what she did a couple of hours ago in her shop when she met her old crush and also her old best friend. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else, but it's like everything is happening at the same time in her mind. Like her husband is laughing in the shower, and then she also hears her old crush laughing in the coffee shop that she owns, and they're laughing at the same time, and her old best friend, and the dumpster outside. She's not well. Something is terribly, wrong inside her, and she can't think straight. Everything is just hazy, and that's exactly why I chose this title, In the Haze. And there's also a metaphor about riding shotgun in the summer, which I'm not going to explain now. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop here. I already described 6 stories to you. So I'm going to stop here and leave the rest for next time. I've been filming this for a while now, and I think it's going to be a very long video if I film all the stories in one. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.